This is CBC Vancouver News.
Lost luggage, the thousands of Canadians still searching for their bags, and the travel chaos that just won't end.
I'll be honest and say it was a bit of a mixed bag.
The damper on the Christmas ski season and how local resorts are trying to recover. And Vancouver Island residents in a bind as key bus routes come to an end. Good evening and thanks for joining us. Dan is away tonight. I'm Michelle Ghoussoub. Some changes are coming to YVR this week. Canada is bringing in new COVID testing requirements for travelers from China, and the wastewater from the planes arriving from that country will also soon be monitored. As our Zara Premji explains, it's all to track for variants as COVID surges in other countries.
A new form of surveillance when it comes to COVID-19 in BC, and from a different angle, one that will incorporate human waste.
YVR is moving forward with a new pilot study with the Public Health Agency of Canada and BC Centres for Disease Control to directly sample waste from certain aircraft arriving from specific destinations, starting with aircraft arriving from the People's Republic of China and or Hong Kong.
It follows the implementation of testing requirements as of this Thursday for passengers arriving into Canada from those regions as well as Macau, a temporary 30-day reaction to the surge of the virus in China. The Public Health Agency of Canada says YVR's as well as Toronto Pearson's wastewater on a larger scale are currently sampled and tested, but testing the waste directly from the toilets and taps of planes can shine a light on any potential variants popping up in the country.
You might have an earlier indication that, hey, you know what, we might have a wave approaching, and you might be able to detect a surge in COVID-19 before it actually happens, before it manifests in the hospital setting. So you have time to prepare for this.
So we can have a better understanding of the pathogens that are coming in, variants of concern we can really see.
Both explaining as waves of the virus ebb and flow, we too need to take different approaches.
The virus is going to continue to do exactly what viruses do. It's going to mutate, and we will still see variants emerging.
But Bogosh says in order for this to work in Vancouver as well as Toronto, governments need to share their findings so everyone can be well informed.
It's a step, but I don't think there's many silver bullets with COVID-19, and this certainly isn't one of them. It's just, gradually moving forward in a smart direction.
The Public Health Agency of Canada says it hopes to pilot the program in the next couple of weeks. Zara Premji, CBC News, Vancouver.
Now, after all the chaos at airports, including at YVR over the holidays, things are not 100% back to normal for everyone. Some travelers are still stranded abroad, and as Deanna Sumanak-Johnson tells us, thousands of people are still without their bags.
The holidays did not bring the family reunion Parham Zabedi hoped for. He never made it to Cincinnati, Ohio. 10 days ago, bad weather meant his flight was turned around mid-air. His luggage is still lost.
Just yesterday, I got a phone call from someone in Cincinnati saying that, hey, your luggage is here. Do you want to come and pick it up? So basically, I asked them to ship the luggage back, and then still nothing from Canada.
Thousands of passengers who flew with Canadian Airlines over the holidays still don't have their bags. Many travelers shared pictures of bags dumped in locations around airports or more unusual spots like this one in Punta Cana, Mexico. In some places like Ottawa, bags are slowly making their way back to their owners. Other passengers are asking airlines for refunds for lost luggage. They're eligible for up to $1,000.
Obviously, airlines have to absorb these costs because the traveler has entrusted them with their belongings, in this case, a bag. In some cases, the airline can resort to insurance claims on their own, but this is really a cost of doing business.
But money is not what Jordan Feist wants. The university student flew to Zurich to spend Christmas with her Swiss boyfriend. That was 18 days ago. One of her bags lost at Toronto's Pearson Airport still hasn't made it.
It was pretty disheartening just because the one bag was filled with all my Christmas presents for my boyfriend and his family.
She knows where the bag is just because she has a GPS tracker on it.
The only information I get is from my AirTag. Like, I wouldn't even know it's in Montreal right now.
The Office of the Minister of Transport, Omar Al-Gabra, said in a statement that they're in touch with airlines and airports about this situation. They also urge all affected passengers to file a complaint with the Canadian Transportation Agency, though it's worth noting that that agency, too, is experiencing a backlog. Deanna Sumanak-Johnson, CBC News, Toronto.
Vancouver Island residents are in for a tougher time when it comes to commuting from city to city. As Claire Palmer reports, Intercity bus service is being paused until May.
Today was the last day of service for the Intercity bus service that runs from Victoria to Tofino. The Tofino bus and the Vancouver Island connector will fully pause operations until May as they shift towards providing a more seasonal service. Wilson's Transportation, the company that operates the buses, announced the cancellations at the end of December.
It's a tough time for the numbers on the bus. We wind up subsidizing the service for those that period of time in years gone by. And post-pandemic, we just can't afford to do that anymore.
The bus provides what riders say is an essential service, connecting 29 communities and 21 First Nations across the island's west coast. For many travelers, the announcement was an unpleasant surprise.
It's interesting at a time when everybody's concerned about climate change and trying to get people out of their vehicles, that we make it less and less easy for them to do that.
I come back and forth from Port Alberni to Nanaimo a lot because my best friend and my boyfriend are here. And then my family's in Port Alberni. So going back and forth, I've been doing that for a long time. It's going to be really hard to find a way now, unless I pay a lot of money for a cab.
This is a lifelink. And when I have to see my family later in the year to deal with the details of my dad's passing, it's just, I don't know how I can do it.
The service received government subsidies to continue running. However, it wasn't enough to keep the buses going. Any passengers who have pre-purchased tickets will be contacted directly by the company. Claire Palmer, CBC News, Nanaimo.
A 7-year-old man is dead after a fire in East Vancouver on New Year's Eve. Firefighters were called to Ormadale Street near Boundary Road and Kingsway just before 9 p.m. Saturday. Investigators say the man's spouse heard a loud noise coming from a bedroom upstairs, believed to have been a window breaking from the heat. They say his death is not considered suspicious. A terrifying scene played out at an NFL game tonight between the Buffalo Bills and the Cincinnati Bengals when a player collapsed on the field. Medical personnel rushed to attend to Buffalo Bills safety Damar Hamlin. The 24-year-old collided with another player but got up and seemed to adjust his face mask before he fell back. Hamlin is in hospital in critical condition. Canada's quest for gold at the World Juniors resumed tonight as the team faced off in the quarterfinals against Slovakia.
Slides it again. Overtime winner sends Canada to the semis.
Canada was seen as the heavy favorite heading into tonight's game, but after a strong start, Slovakia pushed things into overtime. North Vancouver's Connor Bedard came out swinging with an early goal and, as you can see, scored the overtime winner. Canada beat Slovakia 4-3. BC's young workers are starting the new year with some new protections in the workplace. The changes to the Employment Standards Regulation came into effect yesterday. They apply primarily to dangerous jobs. Under the new rules, work involving logging, smelting, oil drilling, or risk to exposure to certain harmful materials can only be done by people 18 and older. Jobs in construction, fish processing, and some animal processing work, meanwhile, now carry a minimum age of 16.
When you look at the, what is happening, we need to recognize certain factors that relate to the age, such as physical and mental maturity of our young workers, that can impact their risk of safety at workplaces.
The province says current employees who will reach the prescribed age by April are excluded from the change. Well, the new year is also bringing some price increases. Landlords will be able to raise rents by 2% in 2023. A 2% increase is also coming for BC Hydro. Natural gas will get more expensive too, with Fortis upping rates by nearly 4%. That's an average of $7.62 a month. And finally, with grocery prices expected to increase more, some cities will be requiring a charge for all paper and reusable bags. And 2023 as a whole is looking like another bumpy one for Canada's economy. As Susanna De Silva reports, while there is some optimism, there are also warnings to brace for a difficult road ahead.
New year, new resolutions.
It's just creating a new program for myself for strength, for weightlifting.
And some are being zen about the coming year.
I thought 2022, there was a lot of really bad things that happened, but a lot of things I think are getting better as well, and I'm really optimistic for how 2023 is looking.
Unfortunately, it's an optimism not everyone shares.
We expect 1/3 of the world economy to be in recession. Even countries that are not in recession, it would feel like recession for countries of millions of people.
The International Monetary Fund is predicting slowdowns for the world's biggest economies, the EU, the US, and China, now struggling with COVID, meaning possibly more supply chain problems as countries and consumers are already feeling pinched.
Canadians are feeling high inflation, they're feeling higher interest rates.
The Bank of Canada says a recession could hit Canada too, and the pains Canadians felt last year could be worse for 2023, including more interest rate hikes, high inflation with high prices, some suggesting groceries could be up another 5 to 7%.
There's been no growth in household real earnings. At the same time, they're seeing incredibly fast increase in their debt service payments, so expenses that they pay on their mortgages, on their consumer credits, different lines of credits.
And it's why many small businesses aren't feeling confident.
We're at levels we haven't seen really outside of recession periods. It certainly shows that it's not a strong economy right now.
Fortunately, some businesses say the challenges of COVID mean they have learned to be flexible.
I mean, we've dealt with so much in the last 3 years. It's just another shovel load on the pile. Like, it's not something I'm specifically reacting to. A lot of our members
as he hopes
really
more people will come here
people
to focus on something other than the economy. Susanna De Silva, CBC News, Vancouver.
You might want to set your alarm tonight. Tomorrow at 7 a.m., the BC government will once again open its online system for camping reservations. Campers will be able to book spaces up to 4 months in advance. The government hopes starting early in the month will help regulate demand after the site repeatedly crashed because of high demand during the past 2 years. More campsites are being added to the reservation system this year, and there will still be first-come, first-served spots. Every year, local ski resorts wait for the Christmas season, hoping to draw big crowds. But this year has been a difficult one for the mountains. While the heavy December snowfall got people excited to hit the slopes, Saurabh Sandhu is finding out more recent conditions have made for a challenging ski season.
Things started out promising with plenty of snow and cold temperatures to make even more. But when things warmed up before Christmas, conditions on the ski hills took a turn for the worse.
The snow was a lot icier, and also it was more ice that was coming down from the sky.
Today is actually much better. A few days ago, a little bit more visibility was not as good, but today is fabulous. So.
With colder than normal temperatures, local ski resorts had an ideal start to the holiday. Heavy rain soon turned a winter wonderland into a sodden mess.
I'll be honest and say it was a bit of a mixed bag.
Mount Seymour Park remained closed for 2 days because of the incessant rain.
And unfortunately, we had a bit of a warm weather front move in, so we had a couple of inclement days.
After that heavy rain came cooler temperatures with precipitation falling as fresh snow, some 35 centimeters of it. Fresh powder for the local ski and snowboard enthusiasts.
And this year we just returned again because it was so fun and it's like a quite good experience. Yeah.
Oh, it was pretty good. The snow is like pretty hard, so it goes like pretty fast here.
Despite the temporary lull, staff at Mount Seymour says business is good thanks to the early start of the season. And with temperatures forecasted to be less than average for January, they're hoping for a solid winter run. Saurabh Sandhu, CBC News, North Vancouver.
Well, if you're watching the late news, you may be more of a night owl, but if you were also up early this morning, you may have caught a stunning sunrise. These are just some of the photos sent on Twitter to CBC Early Edition host Stephen Quinn. He encouraged his followers to step outside and look east, and several listeners were kind enough to share their sunrise pictures with us. As usual, the photos hardly do it justice, but it was a special moment for many who tell us it was their first sunrise of 2023. Some tough swimmers returned to Vancouver's English Bay on New Year's Day for the polar bear swim. The participants braved the icy waters yesterday morning to take part in the event. Folks of all ages wore everything from summer swimwear to Halloween costumes as they took the plunge. This year's Chili Dip is the first in-person polar bear swim at English Bay since 2020. The last organized swim took place just before the start of the COVID-19 pandemic. A former pope lying in state what his legacy means to Catholics today ahead of his funeral later this week. More on this after the break. Thanks for watching our commercial-free live stream. From weather events to major political shakeups, our BC photojournalists covered a lot in 2022. Here are just some of the beautiful and striking photos they took throughout the year. A steady stream of people visited the body of former Pope Benedict XVI ahead of his funeral on Thursday. Benedict died Saturday at the age of 95. Katie Nicholson is at the Vatican and is taking a look at the former Pope's legacy.
Well, thousands of people have walked through these streets today as they made their way to the Vatican. Perhaps not surprising, this is one of the largest tourist attractions in Italy. But what was surprising was hearing from them what motivated them. So many we had expected would be here to see the former Pope Benedict in repose, but many telling us they're here as tourists. And perhaps, though, that's not so surprising when you think about the fact that Pope Benedict had pretty much disappeared from public life for 10 years after his retirement. He really wasn't an entity that really people kept in the forefront of their minds in the Catholic world. And for a younger generation, Pope Francis is really the only pope that they know.
I was pretty small and young when he was pope, and then I don't have really a clear idea or an strict opinion on it.
But to another generation of Catholics, Benedict will be remembered, revered even, as a theologian.
I think the generation to come will understand how big he was, how large his theology and his knowledge and his wisdom, all this, yes. I think this generation don't see really what he was.
Well, he'll be remembered as someone who has done a lot to the church. You remember before becoming the Pope, he has also worked a lot in the Vatican offices.
Benedict will be remembered for more than just being the first Pope to retire in nearly 600 years. He was a sharply divisive figure. Even though when he first started as a priest, he wanted to see change within the church, thought it was necessary, he would later become an arch-conservative, pushing for the original Catholic doctrine at a time when many people wanted to see change in the church. Katie Nicholson, CBC News, Vatican City.
Soccer legend Pele is being remembered where his journey began in Santos, Brazil. Tens of thousands of people have been lining up at the stadium of his home club to pay their respects. The stadium will be open to the public for 24 hours. Pele's body will be interred tomorrow in a private ceremony on the 9th floor of a vertical cemetery overlooking the stadium. The three-time World Cup champion died Thursday at the age of 82. He suffered multiple organ failures as a result of colon cancer. Here is a time-lapse of the spectacular sunrise this morning over Mount Seymour. Johanna will have your full forecast next.
For years now, doctors and scientists have pointed accusing fingers, and tonight, Secondhand Smoke has been convicted. The crime is killing people. That is the conclusion of a sweeping report by the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency. It declares that air contaminated with cigarette smoke kills non-smokers. The EPA report says secondhand smoke causes at least 3,000 lung cancer deaths in the United States every year. Children, it says, run an increased risk of pneumonia and bronchitis, and kids breathing secondhand smoke can also run a higher risk of experiencing asthma problems and ear disorders.
The report's fine print will be released tomorrow. It does not pull any punches. For the first time, the EPA officially classifies secondhand smoke as a human carcinogen. Not surprisingly, those two words are causing many more words today, both in the United States and here at home. With the story from both sides of the border, here's our environmental specialist, Eve Savory.
He has smoked since he was 8 years old. That's 35 years. But Michael Phillips says the EPA report won't change his life.
Well, I guess when you're hooked, you're hooked.
But for non-smoking groups like the Ontario Campaign for Action on Tobacco, the report is exactly the ammunition they need. For the Americans have classified secondhand tobacco smoke as a prime cancer causer, up there with asbestos and benzene and vinyl chloride.
This classification will put tremendous pressure on governments everywhere to finally get rid of a deadly risk like this.
That's right.
It is estimated that every year about 330 Canadians die of lung cancer caused by secondhand smoke. Lynn Van Horn died last May. She had never smoked herself, but was constantly exposed to smoke at the office. She wrote this letter to Ann Landers.
I'm the mother of 2 young sons, and I don't deserve to die this way because I have never smoked. At least that's what I thought.
And it's not just lung cancer.
People who live in smoking households are a lot sicker, take more time off work, visit the doctor more often and die earlier than people who come from smoke-free homes.
But tobacco companies disagree. They are fighting the science.
As of today, the science does not support a claim that environmental tobacco smoke is a risk factor for lung cancer.
While Canada has not classified this smoke as a carcinogen, it is far ahead of the Americans in trying to reduce exposure, and it will go farther.
It's clear in my mind that we have to do all what we can to eliminate tobacco.
The non-smoking groups would like the new classification to be a death blow. If they're right, says Michael Phillips, soon you'll only see smoking in museums. Eve Avery, CBC News, Vancouver.
Hi, I'm Amy Bell, and here's what's in your CBC Vancouver inbox. Enjoy groundbreaking contemporary works of theater, dance, music, and multimedia at the annual Push International Performing Arts Festival, January 19th to February 5th. And never miss a special programming series, event, or contest. Subscribe to CBC Vancouver's e-newsletter at cbc.ca/Vancouver inbox and keep connected with us.
The weather update is brought to you by Direct Buy Furnace, installing the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
And senior meteorologist Johanna Wagstaffe joins us now for a look at the weather. Joe, we had snow, we had rain, we had flooding, and then a beautiful start to 2023.
We really did, and I'm glad we had that break just in time for the new year. Beautiful sunrise, too, this morning. Michelle, that break is coming to an end, but not in a dramatic fashion like what we saw last week. The showers crossing the island right now, we're beginning to see them fill in across Metro Vancouver. So by the time you wake up tomorrow, that rain will be across our neck of the woods. And we also will be watching for some wet snow at higher elevations. So I want to take you through, here's 5 a.m. And notice on the forecast models, the pink and the purple showing up. At this point, it looks like a couple wet centimeters possible for higher elevations, which does mean some usual suspects across Metro Vancouver, Burnaby Mountain, Queen Elizabeth not out of the question, the Tri-Cities, North Shore. Again, it's early morning hours, but for many, this is the first official day after holidays. You might want to leave a little extra time if you normally head out early. Changing over to showers in the afternoon, our temperatures will be around 5 or 6, and then possibly clearing out by the end of the day. We are looking at a dry Wednesday between systems before the next one rolls in Wednesday night into Thursday. That one looking to bring some mountain snow, but a much milder system. So we have 3 of these systems to get through in the week ahead, but they're short and they're not intense. I don't think they'll come with any weather warnings. The interior, you get another nice day, -1 in through Williams Lake. Some flurries tomorrow evening in through Kelowna. We'll look for that wet snow tomorrow morning, changing over to showers. A break day on Wednesday, showers ramp up to steadier rain on Friday. This is sort of system 2 and system 3. And then, Michelle, look at that, just in time for the weekend when we are reminded that the holidays are over and we could really use some sunshine. It'll be back for this weekend.
Okay, and good to note that for the morning commute tomorrow. All right, thanks so much, Joe.
You're welcome.
And that is your late news for this Monday night. For news anytime, visit our website, cbc.ca/BC. We leave you with a montage of the best drone shots from last year taken by our video journalist, John Paulo Mendoza. Good night.